Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Pastors Getting Personal podcast with me, Dave Novak. And just want to welcome you and remind you what this is about. This podcast is only with lead pastors. It's just meant to be unscripted conversation where pastors just get to talk about real life, and we celebrate some great stuff and then also talk about maybe some trials and some challenges that happen behind the scenes. And so me being a pastor, church planner pastor for 15 years, I've been able to develop some really cool relationships with different people in our city and even beyond our city. But today we have a privilege, and we had the privilege of having a conversation with Pastor Yardley Griffin. And we got to talk about some interesting things as far as he's really talented in the music world, and he travels and he sings and just incredible things there. But also he's a PK, he's a pastor's kid. And so we talked about how father wounds with in ministry with his dad being a pastor, how that it really took a toll on him. And then even trying to get into, with, growing in his relationship with the Lord and as a pastor and what that means to him, and not so much about performance and what it looks like on the platform. So anyway, it was really good. You're going to enjoy this. And so take time to listen to this, and you're going to be glad you did. Okay. Thank you for watching the Pastors Getting Personal podcast. By the way, make sure you like it, subscribe, all of that stuff, and share it with other people. Thanks. Enjoy. It says here, you're a worship leader, singer, songwriter, and entertainer. Pastor Griffin has shared the stage with some of the greatest world-renowned gospel recording artists, such as Kirk Franklin, Fred Hammond, Pastor Dietrich Haddon, Bishop Hezekiah Walker, First Lady Karen Clark Sheard. Some of these I don't even know, dude. Regina Bell, KCJ, Yolanda Adams. Obviously, these are some big ones here. Marvin Sapp and Byron Cage. A gospel artist. He's a gospel artist with Black Market Blue. Pastor Griffin recorded and released his debut album, Hear Me Now, Not Here and Now.
Now, Hear Me Now.
Okay,
Here and Now is that's Luther Vandross.
All right, just clarifying. Maybe you wrote it for him. I don't know. Okay, Hear Me Now. Hear Me Now. Okay. Anyway, you don't want me singing, dude. Okay. Which on the reel that was number 9 on the gospel Billboard charts, and that was what year?
That was 2009.
Wow.
No,
awesome.
I'm sorry. I'm making that up. No, that's wrong, because I did something else in 2009.
Okay.
No, that was 2016.
Wow. Okay. So not too far, not too long ago.
Yeah.
You travel throughout Northern California and the West Coast singing and lifting hearts, conducting workshops and leading worship services. In 2009, you were appointed as the pastor of preaching ministries. And on October 3rd, 2011, you were ordained as the executive pastor of Destiny Church of Sacramento. Mm-hmm. In July 31st of 2019, your father, Bishop Yardley Griffin Sr., transitioned from labor to reward, and on Sunday, October 4th, 2019, Pastor Yardley Griffin Jr. was appointed the senior pastor of Destiny Church of Sacramento. Now's a little history on where you are today. Destiny Church of Sacramento was dissolved, and on Sunday, January 5th, 2020, Pastor Griffin founded and organized Destiny the Experience Church, also known as DTEC. You have a wife, Lady Brandy, and you are the proud parents of Joseph,
Keena,
Kylie,
and Maila.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, there's your history. So you got to fill in the gaps as far as music, because that is, obviously you're well known as a senior pastor, a lead pastor, but man, your music is where I see you all over the place, dude. Yeah. And so how did that happen? How did you get so your ministry expand in that way?
I just I go back. I was I think 11 years old, And I knew I sang, but nobody in my family knew I sang.
Really?
No one knew. So, but I knew.
Okay.
And so my mom had she had the Boys to Men cassette tape, their first Cooley High Harmony.
Oh, wow.
And she had a Walkman. Okay. And so I was in.
Was it yellow?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
That's the one. That's the classic, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
and so she had that, and
dude, that's high level. I never got one of those, man.
Yeah. And so I had the little sponge earphones.
Yeah.
And didn't clean up much as a kid, but I was in the kitchen and I was sweeping the floor, and my back was turned, and I had the headphones, and I was singing, and my dad walked in.
Really?
And he heard me singing. He said, "You're singing in church on Sunday."
Really? And how old were you?
I was 11.
Wow.
I was 11. And that's where the journey started. And so I started singing in church and things like that. And then I kind of started getting my feet wet. And then I had opportunity to sing when I was like 16 or 17, sing with Fred Hammond. Wow. And did things like that. And then
where was that at?
That was at it was a concert, mm-hmm. and they were just calling people up. And people was like, choose him.
Oh, nice.
And so I got up there.
Was that here local?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I got up there and I sang. And then maybe a year later, Fred Hammond came to our church to do a concert.
Okay.
And so I got a chance to sing with him again. And then from there, I think I was about 19 then. And then from there, it just went. And so then people started inviting me to do different things. And then I ended up on stage with Kirk Franklin, with Yolanda Adams, and just all over the place.
Wow. Where were those types of concerts at? And
all over, everywhere. Here in California, back in Georgia, when I was in school in Georgia, I did things in Georgia. And then I would just jump on different things in Vegas, and if somebody was saying come, I was going.
Yeah.
And so it kind of skyrocketed, and I just followed. And then we were involved in this church organization called Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship.
Okay.
And that's where I met William Murphy III.
Okay. I'm not familiar with him.
And so that's why I met him. And his most famous song was called "The Praises of What I Do." Okay. And but he was affiliated with with Chris Tomlin and people like that. And so I got to know their music through him. And with him, he just he exposed me to a different side of worship. And so that's how I started getting into more of the worship part of music. And so and that part is what took me to different places, and that's how I got with Dr. Huddleston. Yeah. And so it's been a journey, but I love every minute of it.
Yeah, man. I see you all over the place, and I'm like, okay, I go around and speak, mm-hmm. but I feel like this guy's doing more than me, and he's pastoring a church and whatnot. And so how often are you out a month doing it?
It's the ebbs and flows. Sometimes it comes in bunches. Yeah. Where I'm gone like 2 or 3 times a week, and like last week and the week before last, I was gone like 2 or 3, 4 or 5 times. Wow. Every week. And then
just different events,
different events, and then you do that, and then there'll be a couple weeks where I don't have anything to do. Okay. And so it's kind of the ebbs and flows and the seasons.
So on average each month though,
each month I'm probably about 4 or 5 different places.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Because we just did in Oakland. I did a concert at Yoshi's in Oakland, just on this. It's Yoshi's. It's and it's funny because they don't do a lot of gospel events there, but they did a gospel event there the other Tuesday, and so I was there with a buddy of mine, Joe Douglas, and so we were there, did that, and then week before that I was in Virginia with my pastor there in Virginia, right? And so just doors open, and I walk through them, and I do my best.
And then you pastor a church on the side.
Well, it's funny because they told me I had been gone so much. They told me they got to redo my contract.
just keep the pay, but I just do less.
Yeah. I just but yeah. So I love every opportunity the Lord allows me to do what I do, and and it all belongs to Him. But I don't. It's for me. I look at it as an opportunity to serve. Yeah. And every chance I get to serve, I know some people, they do this whole deal where they got to go and they got to lay every opportunity on the altar and see. And I'm like, if I have time and I can serve and I can go do it, I'm going. Yeah. I can serve people, and then you make people smile and they get joy. Yeah. I'm going.
So let me ask you this on a personal kind of family side of it on the practical side, how do you, with being, having that flexibility for you, how do you balance family and in ministry in those ways? Because we're going to jump into your dad and how that impacted
absolutely,
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for you, what are some things that you've put in place? Like, hey, this helps keep the balance for me.
Well, my wife and my girls specifically, they know that they're the first thing in my life. For instance, if my daughter calls me now, I'm going to answer the phone while we're on here.
All right.
And y'all going to get to know my daughter.
All right.
Because my babies, my wife, they mean that much to me. And so I was always sure to be sure that they were the priority for me. I would, my daughter, my middle daughter, it's funny, I call my kids by different names. My older one, her name is Keena. My oldest daughter, her name is Keena. We call her Keena. My middle girl, her name is Kylie, but I call her Middle because she's the middle.
Middle.
So
Nice.
I call her Middle.
Got it.
And my youngest daughter, Maila, I call her Soup because she used to play with the soup when she was little, soup cans. Okay. So I call her Soup. Right. So we got different weird names like that. And so, But I would skip out on Bible study because my middle daughter, she played volleyball.
Okay.
And so I was like, somebody has to teach.
Yep.
I got to go to volleyball.
Yeah.
And then when my oldest girl, she played basketball. Yeah. Somebody's got to teach. She got a tournament. And so they learned early on that they were my priority.
Yeah.
And so for them, it's a joy to see me be able to do it. And then they've always had the opportunity to come with me.
Yeah.
I've never left them out.
Yeah,
and
that's
whenever
good.
they want to come. My youngest daughter, she used to, when I first started when I did my record, I would go out and sing. Yeah. And I just had my tracks. She was like 8, but she would go into the sound booth and she'd be directing them on what to do.
Oh, that's cool.
And and what song I wanted next and how to, put my tracks in and out. She learned all that so she could, and I would, of course, she was my roadie and then I had to pay her to roll with me. But yeah, so I've always made a conscious decision to do it. And then my wife knows this is where my joy is.
Yeah.
And so she's like, go, do it. And because when I come home, I'm home.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And when you get your church to respect that.
Yes.
And honor it and appreciate it and embrace it, it makes it a lot easier because I think sometimes, pastors feel like, well, no, I got to be there. I'm in charge. I'm the man. Without saying it, they just innately kind of feel that way.
Absolutely.
And maybe it has a lot to do with, us growing up as PKs. We know there are some times you just have to say no. Mm-hmm. And I look back now, not that I'm the stellar, perfect dad, but I made sure like my kids knew you are purely first. If you have something going on, I'm making arrangements at the church.
Absolutely.
And no one argued with it because that's just what we do.
Yeah.
And another thing we do, I don't know if you have, I just like to share this sometimes for pastors watching or whatever. And I don't know if you have agreements like this, but for me, literally, my wife and I made the commitment, but we had the agreement that I would only be out 3 nights a week. So, so I would maximize, each day, each time or whatever, but I wasn't going to be the pastor and we were going to be the family to where he's gone all the time. Hey, senior pastors, lead pastors, and men's ministry directors, leaders, pastors, etc. Hey, I just wanted to share with you, I don't know if you know about the book that I wrote that recently came out called Fearless Men, and the goal of the book is conquering the struggles, insecurities, and pressures threatening your soul. And so I just want to encourage you to pick this up. It sounds like churches are beginning to use it for small group material, and I'm even getting invited to go and speak at retreats, conferences, and different men's events. So I would love to be a part of what you're doing, and you can visit my website, davenovakministries.com. And I just want to say this, my goal for your men, for any man that reads this book or who I speak to, is I just want to see men that are willing to run through a brick wall for their faith, their family, and their future. And so if you want that, I'm your dude to come out and just be with you guys and minister. So thanks for considering, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah.
Every night. Yeah. He's answering somewhere else, and he's dropping stuff with us. And so it was 3 nights a week. So what was cool was most of the time I barely got to 3 or so. Mm-hmm. And then there was probably only, 1 or I don't know. I can't even count them on my hand. how many times in 15 years that I actually maybe went over a day or two, but it was something special. But most of the time, my wife would be like, man, it seems like you're out all the time, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, girl, it's only been two nights. It's just I'm doing a little bit extra this week, so you've been spoiled. But so I don't know what other type of boundaries. Maybe that's just what you stick to. But for us, I got that intentional. Like, no way, we're not violating this.
Well, I know, like for what I do with the church is we have Bible study on Tuesdays.
Yeah,
and so I tend to all my meetings are everything. Yeah, I do it all on Tuesday. So if anybody finds to meet with someone like this Tuesday, I have a team I call the Dreamers, and we sit around. We literally just dream for our church.
Oh, that's
for what's
cool,
new
man.
and what's next. And so I met with them on Tuesday before Bible study.
Oh, nice.
And because what I want to do is like you said, maximize the time that we have. And so I try, whenever we do things, I try to plan. Well, one for the church, because I'm a church kid and I grew up in church every day of the week. I try to, whenever we have something, have it on days that we're already going to be there.
Yep.
No extra days.
Yeah.
So this Saturday we have morning prayer, but then we also do discipleship class. And so they had it on another Saturday, but I moved it to the same Saturday that we have morning prayer.
Right.
And so everything and then after that, they'll have the men are meeting, things like that. And so so I did that for myself, and then the church began to follow suit.
Yeah.
So what it was is everyone can maximize their time with their families.
That's good.
And then with me, because then outside of church, and I have an entirely different life outside of that with music and things like that. So I want to be sure that I consolidate. Yeah. And so then, so I'm gone a lot, but I'm at home a lot. Yeah. And so my kids, they don't miss it. Yeah. Because I'm at home a lot.
Well, I think we're teaching our people, we're modeling with people too, because it's not like they're just embracing or tolerating. Oh, he's only here for whatever. We're showing them. Yeah. Like, no, this is how we're supposed to do it. Now let me ask you this: why do you think pastors fall into the trap of they give themselves away to ministry maybe too much, or they just don't set up boundaries and how they just hurt home? What do you think may be underlying?
Well, Now you're tipping into the other part.
I know. We can go ahead.
Yeah, you're going there.
We can go ahead and let's go for it.
Okay. I think and then know from my dad that for him, and then just watching, it was out of insecurity. They not really finding a stable place or really unknowing who they really were outside of the call. And so I think today, guys like you and guys like me, and even some of my friends, I think because many of us, we did things outside of preaching and teaching and pastoring first, that we don't hinge our lives on that. And so we go in saying, don't call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. Right. And I don't want to be rude, but it's like, if they die at 3, they're still going to be gone at 8. They're going to be gone at 8. It's why did you wake me up at 3?
Yeah, they're not going.
They're not going anywhere. And that was me, Yardley Griffin.
Oh yeah. That was him. I didn't say this.
But it's those kind of things that and many of the pastors earlier on, they only had one job. Yeah. And that's all they did. And that's where they found their security at. Yeah. And so it was a need. And so the need and the necessity of being needed by people. Yeah. Because that's all I have. Right. And so it's if we don't discover us outside.
That's good, man.
I can't be preach. Yeah. My name can't be pastor. My name has to be Yardley. Yeah. And Yardley and Dave has to mean something. And then if Yardley and Dave mean something, then all pastor does is it highlights who we already are. Yeah. But if Yardley and Dave don't mean anything, then Dave becomes pastor. Yeah. And that's all he is. And outside of that, who is Dave? Yeah. Who is Yardley? Yeah. And so now I have to answer the call, and I can never say I can't.
Well, and I think going back to older generations, that's just, like our dads, many of our dads, they just weren't taught the other. It wasn't common to be taught like, no, you have this part of your life, you compartmentalize, and they just weren't taught that. And so we have unfortunately, through maybe some scars and that kind of thing, we're like, hey, no, we've got to make some generational changes.
Absolutely.
And so thank God we've actually learned from the...
Yeah, well, learning. And, well, that's why I'm the dad I am. Because my dad gave himself.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, for me and my siblings, we only got our dad for the last 5 years of his life. My dad passed away and when I was 40.
Wow.
And he had a stroke. My birthday is February 4th, and he had this stroke on February 14th. And I turned 40, and when he had a stroke, that was it. And then he held on, but that was it till
what
July.
was the last the 5 years?
The 5 years is when he realized that I gave myself to something that has no stability. Because my family is where it really is.
Yeah.
And so, but I gave myself these people, and these people, they kept leaving. I kept chasing them. And the people I didn't give myself to, they've been here the whole time.
Right.
They don't like me because of me. But they never left.
Right.
And I've given myself to people there's a revolving door with everyone but these people. And
Yeah.
I never gave them a chance.
Dude, you're so right, man. We end up spending so much time trying to impress people.
Impress and embrace other people.
And they're not even going to be
and
around.
They're not there. And then your kids, your wife, they're still there. And they're just there.
Yeah.
Hurt, but they're there.
Yeah.
Broken, but they're there.
Yeah.
And then we say, oh, yeah.
Right.
And it was for 5 years that we got him.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Looking back at those 5 years, or even during those 5 years, did it make you happy, or were you bitter because of
It
really?
was the best 5 years.
Oh, okay, good.
It was the best because I was able to. I got bitter after he passed away.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I was bitter before.
Yeah.
And then, but in those 5 years, I was able to tell him. And I was confident I was able to share. And I told my dad, I was like, you're a terrible person. You're a horrible person. you're jacked up. I will never ask your father advice.
Wow.
Because you can't help me.
Yeah.
You can't help me. Because
Yeah.
you've been a great pastor, but you've been a terrible dad. And then he was like, I know.
Oh.
I know. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And so it was hard in that moment. It was hard to hate him because he was like, I know.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Yep,
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
And so it was the best and most fulfilling.
Wow.
I can admit, because he was done. But the frustrating part is that all his energy was gone, though. All the energy was gone.
Yeah.
So so I got frustrated after he passed away because I was like, I had him, but I didn't get the best part of him. And then I felt that way for my siblings. We had him, but they didn't get the best part of him either.
Right.
And
So during that 5 times, were you now pastoring the church
Yes.
pretty much?
Yes.
Were you the lead pastor
I was
at
a
that
lead pastor.
time?
So even though in my bio it says, what it says, when in 2011 I became the lead pastor of the church.
Okay.
Because he was like, yep, taking a back seat. But the issue is it was after all the life and juice had been sucked out of it. Then he was like, yeah, I'm tired. Take it.
Right.
I was like, what?
You're like, what am I supposed to do with
What
this?
am I doing with this?
Yeah, yeah.
And so we fought and went back and forth.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you left me, you gave me nothing. You gave me nothing.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm gonna do this job. I'm gonna do the job.
Because you're called to it.
I'm called to it. I'm gonna do the job. And so he was there, but he had nothing left.
So what were because we've talked about the father wounds and just and you even checked out my book too, right?
Yeah.
And so little plug.
Get it.
Hey, before I go and ask you the next thing, for you in the book, what stuck out to you most? Just so maybe people are considering it.
This is what I can tell you. I read that book and I read about me. I'm about to cry. I read that book and I read about me, and I read about my brothers. I read about my sisters, and I saw myself.
You're about to make me cry, man.
I saw myself, and I said, and what happened is, I discovered I'm not the only one. Me and my siblings, we're not the only one. And then, but in it, I'm like, but was it really my dad's fault? Did he really have he didn't know anything else to do.
Yeah.
I'm not giving him a pass, but what else was he supposed to do?
Yeah.
But what he knew.
Yeah.
I can do differently, but what else was he supposed to do?
Yeah.
And so it's like reading it.
And then what am I going to do about it?
So it's like there's no real answer.
Yeah.
But try to do better.
Yeah.
And so you got it.
That's cool, man.
Shameless plug. But
hey, man, you know what? When I hear stories like that, it's like, man, I'm so glad that someone can relate to where, especially being a PK.
That's what I said. I was like, somebody can relate.
Yeah.
Because you, as a PK, you grow up and nobody gets you.
Yeah.
But you, and if you have siblings, and then especially when you're the sibling that follows in the footsteps, and then you kind of get the flack from the other siblings who don't follow in the footsteps,
right?
Because they're like and so they start treating you like you're like I didn't do it, but because you almost mirror what everybody's mad at, and then I carry his name too. Yeah. I got the curse.
You got the
blessing and the curse of a name. Like that name.
All you have is Junior.
Yeah, all I got is Junior. That's the only thing I got different. And so to carry that, but to get that somebody else gets you. Yeah. It's just it's like, this is incredible.
Man, that's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that.
So yeah. Man.
So with the wounds you got from the dad, obviously you've learned some hard lessons, made some changes, or what did that look like? What did your journey look like growing up, and just how all the wounds and different things happen, from your dad?
I was 11 years old when my dad found out I could sing. That same time I was 11, that's the day I decided I knew I hated my dad, when I was 11 years old.
Wow.
That's the day I realized it. And so from there, it was a space of me loving the ground someone walked on, but knowing that I can't stand this guy.
Why?
He was mean.
Oh, really?
And he was so hard. And he was so wouldn't flex. And all these rules and regulations, but who's following those?
Right.
Who's doing that?
Yeah.
And then he got married again. And then he got mad because I wouldn't call his wife mom, but my mom was right there.
Right. Right.
But that's your wife, and I respect her.
Yeah.
But my mom is here.
Yeah.
She can't take the place of my mom.
Yeah.
And why do you want that to be?
Yeah.
And then my dad. and then I go to stay with my dad because I go to school by his house. And so I stay there ever so often. And then one time I go to stay, and then I decide I want to go home, and he tells me I can't go home. And then, so my dad, he literally kidnapped me in broad daylight.
Oh, really?
And couldn't go home. And then he told my mom I wanted to stay, but I didn't.
Oh, wow.
And then whenever they would call me, he wouldn't let me talk to him on the phone to him. Oh, he's doing homework. And so he finagled this real way to get me to stay. And I didn't want to be there. And then, but here was the thing that made me say, this guy's horrible. His whole deal for me staying with him was a son needs to be with his dad. And he makes me stay with him, and then I don't see him. Right. Because his wife isn't raising me. And then a year later, he gets my brothers. He has them come, my two brothers, he has them come. And then I have to deal with my brothers. Like, why can't we go home? I just want to go home. Yeah. And then they're dealing with the fact of, wait, sons belong to his dad because he told them the same story. And they're like, but why isn't he here? So we're supposed to be with our dad, but we're being raised by this foreign woman. Yeah. You don't know her. Right. Don't care about her. Right. And so, but we're wearing this, but we go to church and wear this cloak of this, we have this amazing family. Yeah. And we're like, this stuff sucks. Yeah, yeah. This is trash. Right. And we're doing all the church kid things, and we're like, but life sucks.
Do you think, and just so you guys know that are watching, we're just having real talk about, the image that pastors, feel compelled to keep up. The former generation, I believe, didn't, we've learned a lot, but what do you think it was that, because I have my own thoughts on probably why it was, but what do you think caused your dad to be so much like image, rules, how we're going to be, etc.?
Well, I know for one, my dad was really, really image conscious. And it was and for him it was, and which I say a lot of things about church today. It's about optics, what things look like, not what they really are. And so, and if I can have a presentation of it, then at some point we can live up to that presentation.
Yeah.
But creating the presentation before you actually have the life.
Yeah.
So I have children of destiny who are becoming something, but they're not nothing yet.
Right.
And so I'm projecting this view, but it's not real.
Yeah.
And so, because this is what I want, and then I get people to come and buy into this, and the people are buying into what this facade of something, but it's not really real.
Yeah.
Now, what I want everybody knows that the crazy thing about this, and you'll live it too, is that there's nothing anybody to this day can say about my dad, because at the same time, this was the greatest dude in the world. You're the greatest guy in the world. But there's truth that has to be dealt with in that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like me to share my truth about it.
Yeah.
Because they can't handle that there's another side.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, my dad was the smartest guy in the world,
Yeah.
the best preacher, the best leader, and I mean, just this great guy, but he was a terrible father. But he wanted to be a good dad.
Yeah.
He just didn't know how.
And I think that's a big part of it. And I think that's part of the healing thing too with father wounds, because I think that's where I leaned on. I really felt my dad wanted to be a great dad. Literally didn't know how. He had nothing to base it on or what. I mean, if you watched a movie on something my dad did, then that's, or, you know, he caught something someone else was doing, but he didn't. And so, and then when they're giving all their time to the ministry, everybody sees this and I'm like getting nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
everybody's conversations, but I don't get any.
Yeah.
I go to talk to him and he's more so figure it out.
Yeah.
But then 2 minutes later, somebody comes to his office and he's sitting there on the floor with them for 2 hours. And I'm like, I but if you don't know how to transfer, and if you don't know how to love the people you're supposed to love.
Yeah.
And if you get into love languages, if you don't love people in their language, you love them in your language.
Yeah.
Then you think you're doing it, but you're not.
Right.
Until one day you wake up and it's too far gone.
Yeah.
And so it's not that there's not one day in my life that I didn't think my dad loved me. He just didn't know how.
Yeah.
What made sense. And so that's why it's like an oxymoron.
And you know what I think too? I kind of put it like this at times when I speak on this area, and this will make a lot of sense to you. I know my dad loved me. He never told me. He never did. I know there was a deep commitment or whatever deep down. Sure. I know my dad loved me, but I wasn't always sure my dad liked me.
That's 100% it.
And you know, because if he liked me, he'd be interested and he'd be like, "Hey, man, you know, I'm coming," or whatever. That's a totally. And to think that, you know, and then to switch it like this, to think we have a God who loves us, but man, he likes you.
Man, and I was in church and I was preaching on Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, because of the way I was raised, I just figured out that God liked me. Because I thought that I knew God called me. I knew that for a fact. But I never saw the blessings of the Lord the way that I thought I should see them and how God would come through.
Yeah.
I thought, and I had become content with this, and I resigned myself to believing that God was using me to help other people and to transform lives. Yeah. But it would never happen for me. And so I resigned myself to the fact it's cool if I never feel it. Yeah. As long as he uses me to be sure that other people feel it. Yeah. I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna run with it. Right. And I said, I just realized in the last couple of years that God actually likes me. And it's so humbling. Yeah. To know it. But it's like, but you know what it was? This is what made me know that God liked me. On October 10th, 2023, I got baptized again. And when I went down into the water, I went down and I said, Dad, I forgive you. And I came up and I was like, I mean, everything went on, no big deal. But it was Father's Day, 2024. I'm sitting in my church, sitting there, and it's time to preach, and I can't preach because I can't stop crying. And I can't stop crying. And at that moment was the first time that I missed my dad because I had forgave him. Wow. And I was looking for all the reasons I didn't like him anymore, and I couldn't find him. And that's when I realized that God liked me. Because even though that was the first time I felt the pain of losing him, but I said, God likes me enough.
You're so right, man.
To let me feel that, because I don't have a reason to be mad. I can't find the anger that I had for him.
Yeah.
And all I can do now is love my dad.
Yeah.
And all the stuff, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I said, God likes me enough.
Yeah. You know, and I think, because we know scriptures and we can quote them all day long or whatever. But I think when we put it in that context and we look at 2 Corinthians 1:3, where it says he's a father of compassion.
Yes. That's it. Dude,
it's like, no, he just really, because when I had that revelation for me in kind of a different way, it was like, it's all over.
Yeah.
I don't have to, and this was my dad was still alive, but I don't have to get his approval. I don't need things to. I don't need him to love me. Sure, I want that. Sure, all of those things. But it's like there's something inside of me now to where I feel like I got, like, my father, my dad. He's got this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm full. My tank is full. Yeah. I guess I would say.
And that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I feel so free.
Yeah.
Because it's like now, I can love from a genuine place.
Yeah.
I can care from a genuine place because I know that God likes me.
Yeah.
And that has been so freeing. And at the same time, it's so humbling. And it's been like, and feeling that pain for the first time.
Yeah.
This is crazy. It hurt so bad, but it felt so good.
Yeah.
Because I did the anxiety and the pressure and all this stuff and trying to please and trying to be sure and I'm trying to please somebody in the grave.
Yeah, right. So many people, man.
I'm trying to be sure that I get recognition from the graveyard.
And you're mad at someone.
And
who's
why?
Dead.
And who's dead and who's not coming back.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my dad's in heaven. We're not questioning. He's with Jesus.
Right.
But it's like all that washed away from me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh. But the funny thing is I cried for like 2 weeks after that. Just a baby. But
that's awesome.
But it wasn't the pain of crazy. It was a pain of hurting that this person here anymore, but the love that I could feel this.
Wow.
And it felt so good just to feel.
Yeah. And that's good,
man. But it opened me up to so many other things
that
now these days I could be an emotional basket case. Yeah. And I just walk around tears in my eyes but it feels so good to feel because I realized I wasn't feeling.
Yeah. And you even told me how you even told me how after your dad passed, you still, because of the bitterness and stuff you carried, you're like, I made my church hate a guy that they never even met.
Yo, I got people in my church today that never met my dad, but they hated him.
Man, you're a hot mess.
I'm just messed up. Messed up. Just bleeding all over. Just pouring buckets of blood on people.
Yeah.
And they didn't like a guy they never met because of my hurt.
Wow.
And because they were so protective, that's why I thank God for the people. They were so protective of me that they were willing to hate somebody who they never met and had no reason. And here's the crazy thing: if they would have met my dad, they would have loved him because everybody who met him loved him.
Right.
His kids were the only people who didn't like him.
We were behind the scenes.
We were the only.
Right.
Everybody loved him. Everybody loved, but they protected and loved me enough.
Yeah.
And so I had to go back and say, hey guys, listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to go back and apologize like that because I did that.
Yeah.
Out of my own pain and anguish.
Wow.
And then crazy, now I'm like, he's the best guy in the world.
Yeah.
And so going through this metamorphosis, and I thank God for our church because they started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah, right.
But they've been so kind to love me, and then to love me through my process. And they were willingly every day have walked with me through this process of my pain and my anguish and my getting better and my growth.
Yeah.
And then to say, we got you.
Yeah.
You good now? We good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now tell us about the other side of this guy.
Yeah.
We've heard about all this.
Yeah, all the good stuff.
Yeah, and they've been able to walk with me and to embrace it with me.
Wow.
And so it's a different situation for me now.
Yeah. What a testimony for those who were in your church that got so many wounds, man.
Wounds.
And now they get to see it like up close on how to start walking down that road.
Yeah. And then for them, several of them have, they with their mom and dad issues and family issues. And then because they were able to see me in living color, I literally walked this crazy thing out right in front of them.
Yeah.
From the ups and the downs of part of this was almost losing my wife.
Yeah.
Part of this going through this process.
Wow.
And they watched me go through this process. And because I'm one of those, I don't lie.
Yeah.
Oh, I used to lie. I used to lie.
Okay.
And I discovered I just couldn't remember. I couldn't remember who I was lying to and all. So I had to go about. But they watched this guy walk through the space of transparency, just being very transparent and being honest about real life and about where I was really at.
Yeah.
And when me and my wife were going through, I was like, yeah, we're going through.
Right.
She's not here and it's my fault. She's not here and it's my fault that she's not here.
Wow.
And if we can't fix it, it's gonna be my fault.
Yeah.
This is all on me.
Because you're the leader.
Because I'm the leader.
Yeah.
And then for them to see us have a moment in a space of reconciliation. And to see us walk it out in front of them, and then to see their lives better because of it.
Yeah.
Has just been but that all came from my childhood trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where it all came from.
Yeah.
And so to be able to walk it out, and then for them to walk this thing out with me, and to still every day call me their pastor.
Yeah.
It's just been absolutely incredible.
And how many years has your church, Destiny, the experience?
This would be year 6, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
all right.
year 6 was.
And how's it going? Where's the church at?
It's incredible. Well, remember, you're the one who, when we got a new building, you're the one who gave me the chairs for the building. You said, come get these chairs.
Yeah, man, that was so awesome.
I had just ordered chairs, and you was like, hey, bro, do you need chairs? I see you doing your building. Chairs. I was like, I just ordered some. You were like, send them back. I got chairs.
Yeah, you better save that $9,000 or whatever it was.
It was like $10,000.
Yeah.
And he was like,
save
they're
that.
Not
cheap.
Yeah, you said, save that. I got chairs for you, man.
Yeah.
I'll be there laying.
And they were in great condition.
I'll be in there every day laying on the chairs. Dave gave me these chairs, Jesus. I saved $10,000. Yeah. And so, man, it's been absolutely incredible because when I had to disband the church, and then reorganize the church. And we reorganized the church, and then the pandemic happened.
Right.
And so then at that point, we had a spot, and then we lost where we were. So literally during the pandemic, we were a church without a place to have church at.
Yeah.
So we went through this pandemic.
Which was a good time to have that.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
But then it was time to go back to church.
Yeah.
And we had no place. So a buddy of mine was like, my best friend, Jaron Heim, shout out, Jaron Heim Sr. He was like, man, I got this spot, and I'm leaving. You want it? Get with your team. I said, I'm the team. Let's go. Let's have church.
By now, this is all that's left.
I'm the team. This is all I'm the team. And so so we did that because I started having church in my house.
Okay.
Having church. So people would come over. We were still online, so people would come over. Someone would stay home. People would come over. And so we got back in and just did that and for a while. But then it was time for that building to be up. That's about to be up. And so then another opportunity came. And for us to get, and we got a spot, but we had to remodel, tear all the walls down. It was an office. It was an office, and so I had to tear all the walls down in there.
Nice.
And it did have to raise about $30,000 to tear all that kind of stuff down.
Yeah.
And did the had to do everything, carpet and everything like that. And then you were like, come get these chairs.
Yeah.
Did that, and so from that moment on, that was 2023. The beginning of 2023, I think, or 2020, whenever it was.
Yeah.
And it was beginning of 2023. And then, man, just kicked the doors in, man.
Yeah.
And just went through there, and it's been great, man.
That's awesome,
It's been
man.
great, and church is growing, man. And
So take us through. You came out of COVID, and now you're trying to get people to come back to church, especially with the Black community, because there was even like a greater threat with COVID, right? How did you progress with, okay, everybody's coming back to church now, and the growth over that period?
Well, we came back to church, and then what we did, we started back in church twice a month.
Okay.
Right? And so we would go 2 Sundays and then 2 Sundays off.
Nice.
This is what happened. We came back to church 2 Sundays, right? And everything was good. During the 2 Sundays while we were off, when we first came back, that second week, some people caught COVID. Now, they didn't catch it at church, but they caught it in our weeks off, but they blamed the church.
Right.
I said, we wasn't even in the worship experience.
Yeah.
But they blamed the church.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, we'll just take another 2 weeks off. But when we came back, I had half of what was there.
Yeah.
Because we were like, well, I can't come back. And I was like, it's not even our fault.
Yeah.
We did everything we were supposed to do. We were bombing the room and mask and all this kind of stuff, and we were doing everything. No one ever caught COVID from church. Not for us.
Yeah.
And so that was our first situation. And then, because remember, our church was still grieving that the original senior pastor had passed away.
Wow.
And so it kind of skipped. And so it was coming back. And so now we're coming back.
And he passed away in 2019?
Wow,
right before
COVID.
In October, I think you said?
He passed away in July.
Wow.
And so we were still fighting through. And then we come back. And so then, now remember, I'm hating him. And then I get a whole crew who comes back who's still like, Bishop. Right?
Bishop who?
Yeah, man. Right. What are you talking about? It's been, and so we go through all that, and so when we come back, and so then I lose a crew of loyalists. I lose a whole crew of loyalists. Who said, "Oh, I'm going to be here. I'm going to stay. I got your back. I told Bishop I would always be here." The Lord says, "See, the season's up."
The season's over.
And I was like, we ain't even been in church.
We haven't had a season.
And so then for me, it was personally painful because I said, I never even got a chance. And this is my first time saying this publicly. I said, I never even, you're basing my pastoral ability on opportunity I never had. Because we're just getting back in. It hasn't even been a year we've been back in church.
Yeah.
And you're saying, the Lord, I'm going somewhere else. And I never got a chance to even pastor you.
In your own leadership.
I never got a chance. You're still basing it off of something else.
Yeah.
I never got a chance. And so for me, personally, that, I'll be honest, that people leaving church doesn't hurt me, but that part really hurt me because I say, you never gave me a chance.
Right.
You didn't got to see how I do things.
How long did it take you to kind of get over it, work through that, and be like, okay, I
this
can
morning.
just really...
No,
for today.
Yeah, it's still... For instance, I was at
real talk. Go ahead.
Real talk. What's today? Today is May 1st. Yeah. I was at a funeral on April 30th, and I saw yesterday, and I saw two of our members who left, and I was thinking like, you never gave me a chance, bud. You never gave me a chance. And so for the most part, I'm okay because I'm not mad at anybody. People do what they do, but that I was like, you never, and then here's another piece, especially because they were the people with my dad, and I said, you gave my dad a chance, and my dad did all kind of weird stuff. I didn't
You put up with him through all that? Yeah.
I didn't get to do 2 weird things.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do 2 weird things. I didn't do anything weird yet. And you never gave me an opportunity to even try.
Yeah.
And try. And so that really hurt. But I kind of pushed through it pretty quickly because we had new people coming.
Yeah.
But the problem with the new people, those are people that I bled on.
Yeah. Right.
The new people got the brunt of it. But they've been very kind.
So you got back, you're starting to get in. How, what was we kind of got some people here, the traction, and where are you guys at today as far as, even numerically? And
so we're at, so when we came back, church, like 80 people came to church when we first came back. And then by the time we got, after the couple weeks off, it was like 14 because people were scared of COVID. Wow. It was like 14. And so then we got back to about 35 That became our pretty good number.
Okay,
that was our number. So I was like, I'm gonna roll with it. And then we were and then you were watching all the stuff about COVID in church and how you have campuses and all this kind of stuff. I was like, whatever, that stuff is dumb. That's only real for people who got 47,000 members.
Yeah.
If you only had 100 or 50 coming in, you got about 8 people at church, and 2 people are watching. And then after COVID is good and gone, the people who are watching online, they're not watching anymore because now they have other stuff to do.
Yep,
that's real life.
Yeah.
And so our good number became about 30. But then when we transitioned over to the new space, we took our 30, 35, 40 people with us over there. And then what happened is I didn't realize that moving across the parking lot from one space to another, that's now your own space. You lose people.
That's so crazy.
It was wild because we literally moved across the parking lot.
Wow.
And we
That's
lost.
so crazy.
I lost like 20 people moving across the parking lot. And I said, what is going on? How do you lose people moving across the parking lot?
Yeah.
This is dumb.
Because they had their parking space, bro.
Yeah,
and you just took it from them.
Across the parking lot. And so we did that. And so we moved across the parking lot. So we lost. And so that was kind of tough. And so, but then in that, we started attracting different people. Different people started showing up. And then a young lady her and her husband, they work for SMUD. They started inviting all their friends.
Oh, that's
so
great.
I got a whole crew of people who work for SMUD. So if anything, I was like, hey, my SMUD is off. Come my SMUD back home. Come hit that switch. And so we started attracting a different demographic of people. Who were coming. And so then it became less of what it was, but where are we going to be now?
Wow.
And so we went from doing like 20, 25, 30 people at church to now, as of today, we have about 100 chairs and we have no room.
Wow. That's great, man.
We have no room.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And
now you got a different problem.
Now I have a different problem. I have the best problem in the world now.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And so now we're looking at an additional worship experience now.
Oh, good for you.
To looking at that and seeing what that's going to look like in the time, or if we do another day, something like that.
Oh.
And so just kind of wanting to be very, very strategic.
Yeah.
Not to move too fast or move too slow.
Yeah.
But we literally. You have your ebbs and flows.
Oh yeah.
And so Easter we really had no room, but then the Sunday after Easter you get that. What's going on?
Yeah.
And so we had some.
Everybody did their once a month.
Yeah. Naturally, everybody does that, and so we have our ebbs and flows, but for the most part we are pretty much at our space of capacity now.
Yeah.
But it's a different church. It's a different church. It's not the same church I have.
You're just moving towards a healthy church,
and that's what it is. Yeah, and we created a space of safety for people. Really created a space of safety, and I think that even though I call bleeding on people, it was really a help. In the worst kind of best kind of way.
Okay.
Because it created space for people to say, wait a minute, I can really be myself, and I can just this is where I'm at right now. Yeah. And not have to put on some kind of facade. And so
that's good, man.
And so I believe God allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
As a kind of like a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
So I gotta apologize for this. But at the same time, it exposed people to, wait a minute. If this man could just be honest and then say I'm sorry, then I can say, okay, this is where I'm at.
Yeah. I think the great thing about following a man in brokenness, a leader in brokenness, is there's a freedom that just takes over.
Absolutely.
And even, I've noticed it in my ministry, etc., is it's now my goal, because I've seen the results. I try to get as open with my brokenness as possible.
Yes.
Because it just disarms people.
Absolutely.
Okay, I can listen. This guy's got pain. I can listen to pain. I got pain. I know pain.
Yeah.
And so it's great how God uses
it's incredible,
our limp, our scars.
Yeah. Man, I was limping. And sometimes I still limp because I still have not. It's not as bad as it was. Yeah. But sometimes I'm like Jacob, who became Israel. He got stuck with that limp. Yeah. That was my reminder. Yep. His reminder. And so sometimes it's still there, and like some days are rough. They're rough because I have flashbacks and just. And then, music for me is so big. And so sometimes, a favorite song, and I'm like, oh gosh, it takes me back when I was 18 and I wanted the church to fall into a sinkhole. Because it was just so hard, doing ministry and because I started preaching when I was 15.
Yeah.
And so going through that and living through that and all those kind of things and wanting to be perfect and people then thinking you're perfect and you know you're not perfect.
Yeah.
Just so all these different things. And so, but I'm grateful, man.
Yeah.
I'm a happy camper, to be
Come
honest
on,
with you.
man.
I'm grateful. I'm like, hey, life can be what it is, but I feel good about life. Life is good.
Well, you know, the last time we had coffee, you said something that really that I didn't forget, and it really touched my heart, man. Was how, you know, for so long, like ministry kind of felt like performance and presentation, and you know the things we can get caught up in. But you were just like, no, I just want to love Jesus, man.
Man, I just, man, that's all I want to do now.
Yeah.
That's it, man. And then the crazy thing is, I want to shout my pastor out, is S.Y. Younger in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me that Jesus is enough.
Come on.
Jesus is enough. And it's like, it's so incredible because just to love Jesus, that's it. There's all the performing and the, speaking in tongues and the laying on of hands and the I felt his presence and all whatever as my dad would call the sanctuary calisthenics that we do, all these things that we do, but just to be in love with Jesus. Yeah. Jonathan Butler's song "Fall in Love with Jesus" is the best thing I've ever done. Just to love Jesus. Fred Hammond has a song, it's called "Simply Put," and he goes, "To know you like me, to know you love me, you like me, and I'm yours." And to know that God loves me, He likes me, and I belong to Him. That's good, where my life is. That's where I'm at. That's really where my presentation is now. Yeah. Because I used to want to be the best preacher in the world. Because I learned it. I studied it to have the 3 points, a poem, and a close, and then when I preach to black people, I have my 3 points, and then be like, oh yeah, come on, church.
Oh, you have a lot to do there. I see it sometimes.
Oh no, it's still there. It's still there.
Yeah.
And then when I go,
organ,
and then when I go with my, when I go with my other people, my Caucasian and my Mexican friends, I'm like, I'm coming back to the heart of worship. God loves you.
You do the Chris Tomlin,
all that, to be able to flex and do that, and then but now I'm just like, hey. What you see is what you get. Yeah. Sometimes I put a suit on. Sometimes I wear jeans. Sometimes I got sweats on. Yeah. Because Jesus loves me. This I know, for the Bible tells me so.
That's right.
And it reminds me, and I'm really at a space, man, where Jesus says, "Suffer little children to come to me." Come as a child. The best way you can do. So you see how these babies come. Yeah. Because when they look at the Father, they know He can do it.
It's good.
And that's really my relationship with the Lord now. And so my presentation is my lifestyle. And so it's not something I work up anymore. I don't sit in the back and try to get my stuff. Nah, it's just what you see is what you get. Because this is what I live every day. Yeah. So.
We want people to be like that in church anyway.
Absolutely.
Because man, it's I don't know how many times I would hear how so and so is outside of church and like.
Bro.
No way.
Bro.
Like, oh no, they do X, Y, and Z, and I'm like,
bro.
What?
Are you serious?
Yeah. But it's just like, okay, I got to make sure I'm transparent and authentic so that people can come in and like, okay, at least be open with your junk. It's okay.
Yeah, just be real. And and again, I just call my pastor, man. I've learned, because I travel with him ever so often, and I've learned the same person that I used to watch on YouTube every single week during the pandemic. That's how I was exposed to him. Is the same guy that when we're on the road and when we're traveling. Yeah. This dude is up at 4:30 in the morning tearing down every stronghold.
Wow.
And this is powerful. This is who he is. Yeah. We are traveling from DC to the peninsula in Pennsylvania and riding a Sprinter, and he says, "Wait a minute, it's time to pray." This is his lifestyle.
Amen.
And so for me, it's like, this is my life. Yeah. And I don't want to have a switch. Yeah. So many times I don't expose people and things, but so many times in my life, I've been around preachers and pastors my whole life. And we're at church. Yeah. And God is good. And then afterward, and no disrespect to what anybody does. Yeah. Then we go to the restaurant and they throwing back shots. and they cussing and talking about, I'm tired of these people. You don't like your members? You don't like them?
Yeah.
I like people go to my church.
Yeah.
We stay after church and talk for 25, 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah,
Matter of fact, I was at church on this Tuesday night after Bible study until midnight. My wife comes and said, babe, are you alive? I was like, yeah, it was just me and Ernest, and we just talking, but just enjoying each other.
That's
because
good.
This is who we are.
Yeah.
I don't not dislike it. I don't want to go in the office after church and discuss, did you see her over there? And just, no. I want to be the same person.
Come on. That's good.
If you come to my house, you're going to meet the same guy.
Come on.
My kids, I think this is why my kids like Jesus, is because they know their dad. The same dad is at home. It's the same dad who preaches on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why they love
Faults and all.
Faults and all. That's who I am. That's who I am. And then they know I'm probably going to talk about my faults on Sunday at church. Because I'm not going to hide. Hey, y'all, listen, I was driving the street, somebody cut me off, and I was about to cuss him out. I had to say, okay, Lord.
You thought him.
Yeah, it was almost there, and I had to pull it back. And so I am who I am, man. Yeah. And I love it and I appreciate it. And and I'm very, very grateful for it.
Well, man, I'm really glad we got to hang out.
Man, I appreciate this.
I appreciate you as a friend.
Absolutely.
Your story and your openness, just coming through what you did, your healing with your dad.
Absolutely.
And I just want to make sure people know that are watching, because, we share openly, honestly about our fathers, and, just like they weren't that hot, etc. But it's not a slight, it's just a reality. Absolutely. And there is a true forgiveness and love, absolutely, and a liking and appreciation for where they are. And so neither one of us want anybody to look down or bad about our dads, because they did so many great things too.
Man, my dad was incredible.
Yeah.
Man, when I look, my dad was the most amazing person.
Yeah.
Life as the author. He just had some issues like the rest of us.
Yeah.
But there's no slight in that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's why I can be so open, because on one end, it just wasn't good. But that other side, man, who could beat him? Yeah. I'm sure the same with your dad. Yeah. Who could beat him? Yeah. Who could beat him at being him?
He did great at all the ministry and, both of our dads for decades here in Sacramento.
Yeah, decades right here in the city of Sacramento. For my grandfather organized our church.
Wow.
And so in 1963. So there's
the roots.
So just all the amazing is just opening the space for people to know that you can appreciate it, but then you can still be honest and not carry this hurt and heartbreak, because it turns into bitterness. And I don't want to be bitter, and I don't want anybody else to be bitter. Yeah. And so tell your story. It's good. Be okay with it. Yeah. And then but don't diminish the greatness either, because out of all the pain, my dad was still greater.
It's good. It's good.
Still greater.
Well, because I like to make sure I volunteer this, for those of you who are interested, whether pastors want to kind of get a little deeper with him, or people you're watching and want to know more about his music ministry, church, or whatever, where can they connect with you on, like Instagram, whatever?
Man, Instagram, you can find me on Instagram at Yardley Griffin Jr. Just put it all together, Yardley Griffin Jr. on Instagram, Facebook, Yardley Griffin. And then if you want to email me, ygriffin@gmail.com. And that's where you can find me at. That's where I'm at all the time.
Good.
I'm on Instagram all the time.
We got to develop the pastoral community. So
absolutely.
Anyway, thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much.
And for those of you who are watching and are part of this, thanks for watching till the end and being able to just enjoy this fellowship here. But pray for Pastor Yardley as he continues with his church.
Appreciate it,
man. And we're expecting greater things. So,
yes, sir. Appreciate it, bro.
Bless you, man.
All right, bless you, man.
All right.
Thanks.
So, hey, everyone, if you enjoyed the podcast, Pastors Getting Personal podcast, do me a huge favor. This is how you move the mission forward and help and encourage more pastors is would you please subscribe to this and like whatever platform you're on, subscribe to it. And then if you could even get the word out, share it, whether it's on social media for others to jump in and watch, or it's you're just sending a link over to a friend to watch it. But this is a ministry. It's not so much to try and just have something out there, another podcast, but man, to really just see a difference made in the community of lead pastors. And so anyway, check it out. like it and subscribe it and send it out. Help us and be a part of it. All right. God bless you.